Well, hello, and welcome back to my desk. I'm trying out my new phone camera for the year-end recap of 2024. It's got a different field of vision than my previous one, so we're going to see how that works out for this going forward. Hopefully the image is a little sharper though. All right, so we're here tonight to do the 2024 book 100 books status wrap up. Now, full disclaimer, there will be books on this list that you haven't seen reviews for. Obviously, I've gotten super behind with that. Feeling a little under the weather today, so I'm going to be drinking my tea, which isn't really tea, it's just essentially hot water with lemon and honey in it. But it's so good. All right, get over there. Put this out of the way. Okay. So, as with last year, right now you will see appearing on the screen all the books that I've read this year. I'm going to read them off my sheet, which is the same sheet that I had last year. It's just been retitled Reading 100 Books instead of in 2023. So this year I read whatever 64 minus 28 and a half is, because one of them kind of went on the borderline of last year and this year, and that was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea that I finished on January 2nd of 2024. Okay, so all of the books that I've read this year are... Attention, attention. This is voiceover me cutting in to say that I accidentally left one off the list, and that is Space Carrots, a novel. It was written in really tiny print under 20,000 Leagues. My apologies. You'll see it on the list, even though you don't hear me say it. And back to the video. Verses for the Dead, Fascism a Warning, Crooked River, Survive the Night, The Wrong Girl, Night Games, Drop Dead Gorgeous, The Betrayal, The Secret, The Burning, Our Last Echoes, This Is Not a Ghost Story, Bloodless, The Cabinet of Dr. Lang, The Witch Hunter, The Cabinet of Curiosities, Torn, A Wicked Trilogy, what I think was book one, it wasn't the whole trilogy, Still Life with Crows, Brimstone, Dance of Death, Book of the Dead, Wheel of Darkness, Cemetery Dance, Fever Dream, Cold Vengeance, Two Graves, A New Fear, White Fire, Blue Labyrinth, Crimson Shore, The Obsidian Chamber, City of Endless Night, Angel of Vengeance, and Phantasma. So, it was a lot of books. Some were good, some weren't so good. I had two that I did not finish. The previous video's book of Good Omens, and then another one, I can't remember what it was. It was when I got my book haul, one of my book hauls from the beginning of the year. I'll put the name in here. It just was a dud. I think I talked about it in one of my videos. So far, it's been a pretty good year, I think. At the end of it, there's no way there's going to be any more new books added to the list. So that's all of the books. And what you will notice is, if you know anything about any of those books, is a lot of them are from one series. And that is the Pendergast series by Preston and Child. I talked about there was going to be a book published in August. That book is just off screen here. You can't see it. And I wanted to read all of the books in that series before that book was published. Now, I didn't quite accomplish that. I did read all of the books before I read that book, but not before it was published. Okay. I'm just thinking how exactly I want to do this. So, ignore that bit. There is a recap series of all of those books coming. They're going to be, I'm going to do them all in one video, I think. That's my plan. That's how I have it structured right now. We'll see how it goes once I start trying to film it. But that's not going to come until the new year. And there's a couple books in there from the last review that I did, which was, I think, The Witch Hunter. There's a few interspersed in there that aren't in the series of books, the Pendergast series. I'm not sure how I'm going to go about doing reviews on those, if I'll just kind of do them all in one, or if there's any in there that I might want to do an individual review of. But I guess we'll just see how that cookie crumbles in January. So I did make some notes to look at what my kind of categories of books would be. These are all my notes for the Pendergast review. Okay, 2020, I wrote 2025 at the top. I think because I was doing stuff in my agenda for 2025, but obviously this should say 2024. Do I have a pen? I have my wand pencil. 2024. That's kind of hilarious. Okay, so we'll start out right at the beginning. Best book. The first book that jumped out to me when I sat down to make this little note section about what books I wanted to talk about in my year-end wrap-up was oh gosh, you can't see. Hold on. Try this for some lighting here. Here we go. Was Our Last Echoes by Kate Alice Marshall. This book was definitely a standout this year. I just loved it. I'm going to use my cup to kind of prop it up here. It was unique in the way, don't want the reflection of that on the book. How to do it without that happening. Okay, maybe we'll just do, I'm not sure how much this is gonna affect it's just a shiny book. We're just gonna have to deal with that reflection for right now. So this was a great book. It was a spooky thriller, supernatural story of a young girl and kind of her search for answers about her past and what happened to her mother. The setting was great, the storytelling was great, the characters were great, everything. When I think about this book, I just think about how much I liked it. If there were drawbacks in the original review, I don't remember what they were at this point in time. So you'd have to go back and watch that to find out. But this was just a great book. Our List Echoes, Kate Alice Marshall, best book I read this year. Okay. With that one, not sure if there's a way for me to keep it. We'll just put it off to the side. Okay. Then the worst book that I read is not one I have physically. It was an audiobook that I listened to this year, and it was that one Torn, a Wicked trilogy. It was just bad. It was bad. I didn't enjoy it. I listened to it at like 1.75 speed because I just wanted to get through it. I listened to it while I was working. It was a free book on Audible that I was listening to between my credits for the next book in the Pendergast series that I was waiting to listen to. And that was something really fun that I did this year, was get into audiobooks. And the only books that I have ever listened to in audiobook format were Harry Potter. And that was just because I like to reread them pretty often. And I thought, why not try the audiobooks? And so I've listened to most of those on audiobook. I have to keep looking at the camera because I'm just not sure when this phone will cut the video. My old one used to do it at like 26 minutes or 32 minutes. I can't remember. So there'd always be like a glitch. I had to either pause or splice together. Anyways, back to this. A thing about audiobooks. So to get through all of the Pendergast series books, I did listen to a few of them on audiobook, the ones that I couldn't get used physical copies of. I was able to find a bunch of them at a local bookstore secondhand, which was great. But I couldn't find them all, and I didn't want to pay full price for them all. So I ended up listening to them on Audible, and I actually really enjoyed it. There was 2 different narrators, and I'll probably talk about this more in the video on that series. But if you're someone that struggles to read, try audiobooks. You can listen to them passively while you're working or while you're in the car or like doing anything. So if you struggle to sit down and focus on like text in a book, I just smashed the microphone twice, and I apologize. I'll cut that out. If you are someone who struggles to look at text, definitely try audiobooks. I am still a physical book person. I don't like e-readers or digital copies of books. That's not my thing. I like to have a book, feel it, flip the pages, get the wear and tear on the pages. That's my preference. But I did also enjoy listening to the audiobooks. But okay, I'm going to stop talking about that now because that's not what this video is about. I'll talk about that in the Pendergast video. But that particular free audiobook that I listened to was just not my jam. It was a romance novel, like fantasy, supernatural romance, and it was not good. I didn't like the writing. I didn't like the characters. I thought they were stupid and made bad decisions. And I was angry, but I just wanted to get through to the end to find out what happened. And then it turned out it was part of a trilogy. And I was like, no way am I participating in this anymore. Would not recommend that book. I keep hitting my book light here, thinking it's the microphone. So I'm just going to bend it down out of the way until we get to the next book. Okay, so that was by far the worst book on my list this year. Now, I have the biggest letdown or most disappointing. And I separated this from worst book just because I felt like the biggest letdown book was not a terrible book, I guess. It was just disappointing for me, and that was the book This Is Not a Ghost Story. And I don't have the physical copy of that book anymore. I'll put a picture of it in here. I did have it when I did the review for that book, so you can go back and watch that one. That one is up. To find out all of the detailed reasons of why that was my most disappointing book of this year. And it was just the themes didn't pan out the way that I expected. I felt the messaging of the book, the setup was misleading, and kind of the weird undertones and the themes, and it was just disappointing because at the beginning of the book, the setup and the tension building was really, it really got you into the story. And then in the back half of the story, it just kind of all fell apart into these weird religious themes and setting bad examples for relationships that I was just like, well, this is just a bad message to send. And so that book, This Is Not a Ghost Story, was the most disappointing book that I read this year. And it was such the cover art for that book was so good. The book jacket, I loved it. I was so ready to love that book, and it was just a huge letdown. So that's that one. Now, let's see. Okay, so my favorite book of the Pendergast series, because that was such a large part of my reading list this year, was the book A Still Life with Crows. It was the first one that I read since my reviews stopped being published this year. It's actually the third book in the whole series, I think. It's the fourth book in the series. I have my little cheat sheet for that video over here. That's the one that comes to the front of my brain when I think about that series and all of the books in it that I've read this year. It's a unique story. It's a standalone story in the series, so you can read it without having read any of the other books. The one that precedes it, the one that comes after, are not relevant to the story. It's a singular one in there. There's not very many of those in the series, but that was one of them. And I don't know why, it's just that particular story stuck with me. And I don't have a physical copy of it, so I said I would put a picture of it on the screen for you to have, so you can see what it is. It was the first audiobook in the series that I listened to. Previous to that, all the other ones I had were physical copies. So it was a new experience in that as well. And it was just, I would love to have a physical copy of that one, in particular of all of the audiobook ones that I ended up listening to this year. I will definitely try and get my hands on a physical copy of that one. Yeah, so that was a really good book. It's kind of interesting. It's got Native American elements to it. It was, I'll talk about it more in my pendergast specific video. I don't really keep saying that a lot in this particular video, but it was the one right now that's standing out in my mind, just having refreshed all my notes for that video. So my guilty pleasure book for 2024 was the last book that I've read in 2024, and that was Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This book, I don't even know, it like popped up in a chapters, if you're from Canada or the US, I think also has chapters, advertisement. In my head I was saying as advertisement. And I didn't want to say it like that out loud, so you'll get these like Facebook scroll ads where they'll show you a couple different books, and this was one of them. And the cover art, I didn't know, I mean, it was in an ad, so obviously it's going to be like a featured book this year, but I didn't know that it was like this crazy popular book. A breakout author, debut novel, is what I know. And it was the cover of this book. I was like, I want to read that. And then obviously before purchasing it, I did read the back of it to find out what it was about. And I loved it. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people have reviewed this book this year. So I don't know if I'll do a specific review on this book because there are tons of reviews out there of it. But I just loved it. It was great. It was a fun story. I haven't read, apparently it's very similar to like the theme elements of different fantasy romance novels. It's not my genre, so I'm not familiar with those, so I can't say how similar or far apart it is from any other books in that genre. But I thought it was great. For me anyways. It was fun, it was sexy, it was I don't know, it was just that. It wasn't anything I didn't expect it to be, I guess. It's not like it's some like literary masterpiece or something, you know? But that's why I put it under guilty pleasure, because it was just a fun book for me to read. I enjoyed it. I didn't take it seriously. You know, sometimes people read books and they're like, oh, it's too much this, it's too much that, the writing's too simplistic, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't in any kind of headspace to do literary analysis on this book in November, which is when I read it. I was just looking for a fun book to read, to enjoy. And if you like fantasy romance, I'd recommend it to you. That's my 5-minute review of that book. So yeah, guilty pleasure of the year, Phantasma, Kaylee Smith, great book. Check it out if that's your thing. Now, I did want to give a couple shout outs. So these didn't fit into a category, but I wanted to give a shout out to the Fear Street Saga for reconnecting me to kind of my childhood mindset of reading and just, kind of putting me back in the headspace of just being in grade school and reading and just letting your imagination and run wild, you know. Again, these were not literary masterpieces. These are introductory horror for like preteens thrillers, but the story in this was just kind of hilariously good. Like, I just enjoyed it. It was so much fun. Or it's just something I enjoyed and read. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those. Then, just in general, I'm going to pull this book into frame off from the side. Which you will see coming up in the Pendergast series book video. But this character in the center is Diogenes, and I wanted to give a shout out to Diogenes Pendergast for being the complex villain we all hope for. The way that the story unravels is just kind of a masterpiece of complexity and bizarreness. And specifically the character of Diogenes, I was just like, the name, the atmosphere, the way that he presents himself, everything that happens in the story related to Diogenes, I was just there for it. I was like, you know, it's great. And you'll hear more about that in, again, the Pendergast series of video, and also a mini shout out to Tristram Pendergast, who's just the innocence we all need in this world. And that's all the notes that I had. I'm kind of both really looking forward to, I'm kind of both really looking forward to, and at the same time dreading tremendously trying to get through the Pendergast series. It's going to be a challenge, and hopefully also a lot of fun. Oh. I just hit my mug off my tooth. Yeah, have you ever do that? Or like a metal utensil? It's just this instant moment of cringe. Oh gosh. So for now, I'm gonna say goodbye to you and goodbye to 2024. It was a fantastic year of reading for me, if it wasn't necessarily that great in all other areas. I don't know how this year has been for you, but I hope that if it was challenging or stressful in any way, that the new year brings more hope and peace to your life, and many good books. So yeah, thank you for joining me. That's my 2024 recap of reading. I look forward to seeing you in 2025. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.